Hear me out. Like them, hate them, or indifferent, Cenat, ShxtsNGigs, and Squid Games have these 4 things in common, which they use to keep audiences' attention. Engaging the audience, collaboration, cultural relevance, and something about it is personal and informative. Here's a general breakdown. Lore and history aside, when Cenat brought on SZA for Mafiathon 2, it followed a very interesting format. First, guest introduction and chat interaction. When SZA came in, he hyped her up and allowed her to get acclimated with the chat and allowed them to interact with her, asking her questions and her answering and just generally getting a feel for what the chat is. Second, interactive segments. This is where he brought SZA into his world with things they were already doing in Mafiathon 2, like cooking, hooping, and generally things that would humanize her and let her get a feel of what this all really is and just be a part of the experience. Third, questions, answers, and conversations from Kai, his friends, and the chat, which allows them to get to know who SZA is as a person and allows her to update everyone on anything she got going on, special projects, and anything she generally wants people to know, which adds value to her and adds value to the people viewing Kai's stream outside of just entertainment. Number 4, reacting to stuff online allows them to share their perspective on things that's happening in culture or social media culture, and it gives the audience a chance to share their perspective as well with this person via the chat, so it feels like they have a voice. Now, ShxtsNGigs. We all know what happened and we all know what Kendrick said.
Don't let no white comedian talk about no black woman as law.
But we can still learn from some of the things they did well. Number 1, questions of the week or a roast session. It really just depended on if they had a guest or not. When they didn't have a guest, they would do questions of the week that would come from their audience via Instagram or Twitter, which made the audience feel valued because they had an input in what was happening in the show, whether it was giving their experiences based on a question, sharing knowledge on something, or just sharing a story that would have been funny and entertaining for other people to hear. And when they had guests, they would do the same thing, but instead of asking them for like a scenario or things that would happen, they would ask them to roast their guests, which would add another layer of entertainment because now you can't wait to see if they picked your roast for this guest. And if they did, it's like, oh yeah, that was me. So now you feel a little more valued. You feel like you have a huge part in this show and series, like you're invested in it. 2, story time or guest origin story. If they didn't have any guests, they would just go straight into like a story time of things they've seen, read, heard, or things they've been a part of, like a small piece of a story that's exaggerated. And then they'll start to have a conversation about whether they agreed, disagreed, or how they would partake in a scenario, even acting it out. But if they did have guests, it would immediately go into the guest origin story where the guest will explain how they got from where they were to where they are now and how they met ShxtsNGigs, and all of it would be semi-exaggerated in a way that's still entertaining, but it also humanizes that person. 3, general knowledge, games, and trivia. They'll go right into challenges and games where they can compete against each other, and if they had guests, it would be ShxtsNGigs versus the guests to see who was either smarter or knew more about a topic that they're both interested in. And it really showed you the human side of everyone because you got to see everyone's competitive nature, whether it was them versus each other or whether it was them versus the guests. You got to see a side of people that you might not typically see. But also the games were interesting and simple enough that you can play at home, you can play with friends, or that you can bring to like a game night or something like that. So it left you with something that you can take home for yourself. 4, sports conversations, movie or TV shows, or hot topic and news of the week. Depending on what they did, either allowed them to become experts or trusted in recommendations with movies, TV shows, and anime, stay relevant with news and things that are happening on social media, or allowed them to just generally geek out about the things that they love with sports and the clubs that they rooted for. Squid Games. Squid Games is obviously different, but these 4 elements are still contained in the package of what Squid Games is. 1 is the storyline. It's all about inequality, debt, and survival mode in modern society, which, come on. I feel like a lot of us can relate to. 2, the games. Red light, green light, the envelope game, and more that I'm not gonna spoil that happened in season 2. But overall, a lot of these games are either relatable and things that you can do at home. So you can watch the show and literally replicate it at home or at a game night with friends. This is the 2nd or 3rd time I mentioned being able to replicate a game. And why is that so important? 1, because you can take it, make it your own, and make content out of it. And 2, because it adds another level of value that's tangible and real. 3, character relatability and cultural relevance. We can all relate to at least one character or find ourselves attached to a character because they're literally just fighting for their lives, trying to get themselves out of a bad situation, which could be relatable to any and all of us. Now, once you get to Squid Games 2, you'll start to see that there are people in Squid Games too that are very relevant to the music culture over there. It's interesting because now people are making content out of it, deep diving into why these people are there, the history behind them, and things like that. And as Squid Games continues to grow, there'll be more people like that from different cultures entering Squid Games. So it allows you to now make content, skits, whatever you want it to be. It adds another layer of value. Now you have a framework of what was done and why it's done. And you're probably thinking, well, I don't have the budget, I don't have the same production, I can't do this, blah, 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 blah. Shut up. Here's what to do. Segment your content into sections and do these 5 things. Let your audience play a part in your content. Everyone has an opinion and a lot of people want to be heard. Inspire your audience with a game they can do at home, information that helps them or teaches them something new. Whatever the content is, just make sure it's real and tangible to you and your audience. Bring in the things that interest you in culture and social media, whatever. Just make sure it's of interest to you. All your content starts with you. Don't be afraid of collaboration. Collaborate with your friends, family, supporters, etc. It shows that you value them outside of just a number. Lastly, and most importantly, come here. Add a piece of you in every segment that you do. Again, this is your content, so it needs to feel like you. Hear me out. It's time to stop passively dreaming when you're consuming content and calling it inspiration. Instead, understand why you enjoy the content and implement what works for you.